All right, so let's welcome you back, or let me welcome you back to lesson 29 and 30. I'm gonna put that together, right? As I've said in the previous lesson, there's going to be double. So if you look at the content, so if you go look at the slides, you'll see that there's repetition. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I do cough. It's that season as well. So sorry. Anyway, yeah, so there are duplicates, quote unquote. In other words, it's intended, one lesson is intended for two sessions. But for me, I mean, I see this being very easily covered in one lesson. And so you will see that there is lesson 29 and 30 together that we are going to cover right now. All right. And again, once again, happy Easter weekend, man. Making practical programming easy for you is part 13 of 15. Making content from Geller's book, Beyond Powerful Radio, chapter 11, page 149 to 158, facing that blank page. Okay. All right. There are going to be elements, once again, that are a bit repetitive, which is this part here. We've seen this before in terms of what it is that we might ask ourselves if we are preparing for a guest, but so much more goes into just preparing for a guest, right? So in this lesson, we will be looking at some ways that you can just go and find some inspiration for being able to start and prep your show and move quite consistently and with again fluidity, with a little bit of ease, right, as you do create content for your on-air like I say, your on-air broadcasts, okay? So here it says you're the show producer for a major market radio show, right? And you have the opportunity to book your dream guest for an interview. You must also formulate a plan B just in case the guest's cancellation or other unforeseen problems do happen. And then you've got to fill out this particular sheet over here with the questions that you do see. Like, for example, who is this person? Who is she or he? Why are they actually here? I'm going to go back to now this in just a moment. What has she or he actually done? They, them as well, right? Where does he or she, they, them live or come from? And present materials, book articles, a book that they've written, articles that they've written or have been written about them, records, etc., about the guest to the host. So you as the producer, right? So you can figure out what is the best way forward for the biggest thing is the angle, right? The reason as to why this particular guest is being interviewed and on this particular day at this particular time, moment in time, right? So that sounds so kind of like universal, but it actually isn't. We can interview the same guest, and I think I've mentioned this before, but we can interview the president, who is probably our most famous. I say South African in our country at the moment, and any one particular point, everyone knows who the president is, right? But there are many different interviews we could have with the president. Just let's look at let's say portfolio. So we can talk about to the president about finance. We can talk about let's say community upliftment. We can talk about political agendas. We can talk about I don't know, like the GNU. We can talk about obviously the tension between South Africa and the US and China and this and that and whatever it is. We can talk about allies. We can talk about coalitions. I'm saying with other countries. We can talk about so many different things with one particular person. But what we talk about and when we talk about it. So, for example, at the moment, 10 to 1, you're going to sit down with our president and sit and have a conversation, trying to find out more, whatever is closer to the truth around what is the current political tension between not the US. I think the US has been overdone like a little bit, but more the conversations that our allies, so for example, Russia, India, I think we're with Brazil as well, China again, we're in within that block there, and I think Iran has joined us as well. Yeah, we look like the villains. It's fine, man. We're much more powerful, much more powerful position. Thank you, China. Sidebar. Right. But our like those particular like maybe even a particular country and its tension or its clapback against what South Africa has been doing or has been quote unquote exposed to the world as doing. And we're not talking about the land expropriation. We're talking about so much more that now is coming up. And unfortunately, it is unfortunate, but perhaps maybe it need to happen, right? Is under a magnifying glass, right? And one particular country within our allies is having a massive problem, kind of coinciding with what it is that we're busy doing. So that would be a relevant conversation to have in this, I'm saying that at this particular point in time with our guests, and so that changes. I'm saying it changes why that person is here, why that president is with us on the phone or in studio, whatever it may be, and what he has particularly done or been revealed to do up to this particular point that is in the spotlight, but also maybe what his press correspondent has allowed us information to some privy information. Also, what we've researched and found out more about that we'd like to approach and confront the president on. So, so these things will change depending on the context in which we decide why it is that our guest is actually here. So check with the presenter at the end of the day because hello, it's their show. It's their show, but it's your show too, right? It's both of your show. You are both equally important. You play different parts and different roles that have their own equally important inputs and outputs, right? So check with the presenter. Are you interested? Ask him, her, they, them. I'm going to stop saying the they, them part because I don't have time to be so politically correct, right? But I do acknowledge non-binary people, etc., etc. Right? Here's my life story, right? I'm saying on a piece of paper. But okay, you'll sit with the presenter and ask them, listen, yeah, why are you interested in this particular guest or this particular topic or this conversation? Like what piqued your interest? So note that this is very useful when trying to get a sense of what the host might like for future shows as well. You have got to be a chameleon as a producer, and I've mentioned this before, which is why it is it's preferred that the producer has more experience than the presenter, right? Because this, for a person to be a chameleon and quite easily adapt to a different person, different host, personality, their quirks, their traits, their interests, their this, their that, whatever it is, and showcase the best of that, give them the best opportunity to showcase their best, I'm saying, themselves at their best, is something that comes with experience, right? And again, they've got to put their trust in you. So they put their trust in you to put something together. And with I'm saying in obviously again what is it? Not I was gonna say coalition, it's the only word that I can find right now. But together, right, together. With the host, the producer will put the show together, so it's not an isolated task, right? The producer does what they want, just gives it off them and buggers off, you know. All right. Anyway, what would they like from the guest? Because this helps us in being able to look for the guest, pre-interview them as well. Tell them, listen, we're looking for this and this and this as an output. And are you prepared to, or can you answer? More importantly, can you answer? Are you capable? Are you the right person for this particular interview? Right. So, do you want him or her in the studio by phone, pre-recorded? Like, what are the options here? And how long would you like this piece to be at the maximum? Like, so worst case scenario, best case scenario, and then see how the it's up to the presenter to be able to moderate their timing with how they control and conduct an interview because they've got to read the situation and say, is it worth another 5 minutes? Is it worth another 3 minutes? Is it worth 10 minutes long? Whatever it may be, right? Okay, and then what is plan B? Should this be very important? I'm saying to you, everything that you do on your show is important, but not everything is critical. So, for example, getting the president on the line is critical. But if we can't get the president, what will we do next? Maybe the vice president, or again, an ambassador from, for example, Brazil, right? Who could answer these questions, have us get the same story, but with a little bit of a different, like I say, layer to it as well. Okay. We don't go and, I mean, to a certain extent, we could pre-prep that person as well. But I find it bad taste, right? That let's say it's the president and let's say it's the ambassador. Okay, it's in bad taste. So we might actually call you should the president fall through. Is that okay? I suppose you can ask that. They'll say, yeah, okay, fine. But if I'm not a priority to you, you must also know that if I'm not available and there's something more important in my life, I'm saying I'm also going to tell you, listen, I'm going to choose like my job or my job responsibilities or my first priority over you. So you may think that a plan B could, I'm saying in relation to what is that you are speaking about, could be a solution. I don't believe that it is. A plan B should come in the form of backup content, right? So something else that you could talk about, right? That is well produced, fully produced, and also something that is super cool and relevant, like you would have had in your plan A, right? So producing is a tough gig. It's something it's hard work, and you will find this out throughout your career because you will present and produce your own shows for the majority of whatever time you decide to spend, or the industry decides that you will spend on air, obviously broadcasting to an audience, right? But it is a tough gig if you take it seriously. So that is the big thing. It's your job. You take pride in your work. You want to be able to make sure that you do your best at any one given time, right? And do the best with what you do have as well, right? So don't see this kind of fatalistic approach of, oh, I don't have access to these guests, so it can't be a good show. I don't have competition, so it can't be a good show. And it's a mart like I mean, if you're not good enough on your own, I'm saying just on your own without any bell or whistle, and I've also said this before because it's super important. I'll say it again, right? Like then you shouldn't be on air, right? So as I said, with what you have, let's say you got an overnight show, which thank God are coming back into practice, across the stations in South Africa because it's a great opportunity for a new presenter to sit and learn, right? But they've got to say as little as possible at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Just back announce the song, promote the station, promote the socials, cross promote to another show, and get off the air. I'm playing play some music, right? But if you can do the best you can with what you have, in other words, that's the only thing that you are allowed to do, and you do the very best at it, then you're doing your job well enough, right? You can sit and produce a very basic show like a graveyard show by saying, like, at this particular time, I'd like to cover this promotion. At this particular time, I'd like to add some music info. At this particular time, I would like to cross promote to what's happening, let's say, currently on our breakfast show, right? Or I would like to, let's say, focus like on one of our top fans on our Instagram pages, whatever it may be. You still got to put it out on a prep sheet and still got to do it well. Okay, when it goes poorly, often it is the producer to blame. Your own production, right? Right. Your own production is to blame. It's messy. It's not there. It's non-existent, right? Is the reason why the show sounds awful. Good producers are very difficult to get, and that's very true. Good producers you can find anywhere, right? But someone that knows how to do the job properly, as I said, as a chameleon for to be able to lead, like I say, a team or another person to their success. Now, that's a rare find. Most demand long, stressful hours. As I said to you, man, it takes a whole week to present. I'm saying to produce one show if that's all you have. But if you present every single day, it'll take you the whole day to produce for that next day that's coming up. Now, I'm not saying you've got to be awake 24 hours a day. I'm saying be alert, as I've mentioned in the previous lesson, right? It is. That's what it is. And it's a job, man. That's like a job is long and it's stressful hours, right? And it's demanding. So, although many music DJs and presenters produce their own shows and talk radio, a producer can add significantly to the success of the program if they are, once again, you know what I'm going to say, a good presenter, a producer, right? So finding the right producer is a relationship, right? It's a relationship thing. Do the two, I'm saying presenter and producer, actually get along? So, yes, they must actually be friends because you will then have a vested interest in this person, even if you don't have to be best friends, right? You have to be friendly so that a very healthy one environment is what you copulate. I'm going to use that word right there, right? One, there. And two, like a healthy environment allows for freedom of speech, freedom of ideas, like a safe space. It's so cool, right? And support. So, definitely. Like the producer and the host must listen to each other. Both should share the same goals for the show. That's the end game. The show and the station are more important than either one of you will ever be, right? And that's fine. It doesn't mean you're not important. I'm just saying, remember, you're part of a bigger picture here, right? Hosts and producers spend a lot of time together. So like I said, there's a pre-prep meeting where you got to sit down with your presenter and not before the show. We're talking way before the show so that you can go off and do your job. You guys have a discussion. You're both happy. They're also in a loop as well, so they don't come to the station and suddenly are surprised by stuff that they don't even have any context to or any relation to or whatever it is or familiarity. Anyway, a producer is someone who believes in your show and wants to make you and the product sound great. So that is not necessarily the same thing as agreeing with the host's point of view. Professionals can work with just about anyone. So if you have, for whatever reason, and you will be, let's say, be stuck with a presenter that has a massive ego and that is very kind of like a dictator, you should immediately, not later, because late is too late, right? You should immediately address a rapport where you are not threatened or feel spoken down to or demoralized or whatever it may be. That's up to you because you will set, let's say, boundaries with any new person that you come across in life, right? And let's say, when I say that, not every single other person, I'm saying people that you have to consistently depend on, or when I say depend on, it's a supply chain type of situation, right? And this is also my job here. I don't need it to be threatened or put at risk in whatever way. So there's all you have all the right to have that conversation and have it continuously should the need be there. Right. Anyway, great producers are not born, they're developed, right? Experience, right? Optimally, a good producer is a fit with the show and the host, but a producer should be able to move from one show to another if needed, right? Okay. Because if you understand what radio is about and good radio is about, you should be able to do it at any time of the day and any day of the week. If you're hiring a producer, look for potential, right? And promise. In other words, remember, like you would in any other job or hiring someone new that is coming to your company. Give them little responsibility so that they can have little accountability. In other words, let them succeed in small doses so that they don't fail miserably. Don't set them up for disaster, right? If they have had experience before, then obviously the approach should be slightly different. If you're coming from another station to my station, you still have to learn a lot about this station before you can actually say, listen, yeah, like you're free to leave me alone as a manager. Like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Don't stress. Like I know where I'm at. I know what I have to do. Right? There's still a process that needs to be had. Right? Ask: is this person bright, good at handling pressure? Are they kind of fearless? Because they are the ones that should be coming up with the ideas. They should be pushing the boundaries. They should push the presenter to push their own boundaries as well, right? Don't hire someone who wants to be on air. Please, like when you speak, okay, so we're talking from a manager's point of view, right? If they hear from someone that they're interviewing and they're interviewing them for any particular post, right, at a station, and you seem to want to have other dreams there, like for example, being on air, and I know I'm being a little patronizing, I'm sorry, right? But here's the big deal, right? The reason why should they hire you if only one thing you're going to be distracted because all your attempts is are your first priority, your actual dream, quote unquote, is going to be focused on a different job. So there's half your priorities gone there, and then obviously you're gonna give me half the work. So and then another one, you're also going to plan to leave. In other words, like I can't depend on you to be here for as long as I need you to be. So in a permanent position that I can grow you on and grow those moving, I'm saying those moving parts around you on as well. Can you imagine a producer coming in and out every 2 seconds on a show? The show's going to be an absolute mess, right? The job of producing is more directing than acting. Whatever Valerie wants to say there, I'm going to leave it at that because if I don't believe um, I mean, I find that like a nonsense statement, right? It's just more poetry than anything else, right? Successful producers who excel enjoy the behind the scenes aspect definitely. So they love the medium. A producer loves the medium, but has no inclination to want to be in front of quote unquote the mic. Okay, so I say quote unquote that I can leave that out the mic. It could be a camera, it could be a mic, it could be whatever it is in front of an audience, right? The producer doesn't care, right? Often the best producers are our listeners first, people who enjoy the show. I'm not saying go and look for your producer in your listenership, right? But also know that a producer needs to listen to the station and listen to the show all the time, right? I'm saying when they are hired by. No one really, I mean, to also expect that someone that you're going to hire and now listens to your station religiously is also just, I mean, it's a bit childish, right? If they know how to do their job, they will get invested in the product, right? And so you will be I'm saying, a good employee and a good asset to have. Good producers are often forced to go to TV or leave the industry if they want to be paid what they are worth. Truth be told, man, here in South Africa, a producer will never be paid I mean what a producer is actually worth. They always are definitely paid much less than the host is, right? And yes, we can get bit and sour, but that's just the nature of how our industry works here. Overseas, though, producers, specifically in TV, actually, right, get paid much more. In movies, or they are in charge of directors and everything else. Producers are at a higher standing and a higher kind of like I think that's not merit. That sounds awful, but it's true. They get paid the most because they do the most, right? There is very little producer training or job security available. And I'm going to agree with that only in the sense that there aren't there aren't many production roles, right? So show production roles, because once again, let's look at the shows, right, that are available that have a default producer. Breakfast, drive, specialty shows, right? Okay, like so if you take that those just as those three shows, right, on average, and you average that across all commercial stations in the country, which are what, 26, I think, 26, 22, somewhere there, I don't know, and maybe even include the PBS in there. So we're going to add, let's say, to about 30. I'm not sure now, my numbers are off, right, but they're somewhere there. Think of how so many producers and wannabe talent, good talent that could be potentially great, uh, there's just no place for them, right? Okay. Again, unlike other countries that have not only producers, we have okay, we do have administrative producers for the daytime shows. So all they do is take care of, like, say, like competitions and briefs and stuff like that, not content, right? Okay. I'm saying like actual content creation. But okay, so that adds another, let's say another four, like a fourth person to that. But okay, overseas, the only reason why there's so many more opportunities for a producer is because there are so many more stations, right? And both community and commercial are large enough there. I'm saying in the first world countries that every show could have a producer and pay a producer, right? Anyway, not every show, not like a nighttime show will not have. I'm saying a graveyard certainly will not have a producer. I need to talk radio. Okay, hold on a second. I just need to quickly blow my nose. I'm so sorry. Let me just pause. Okay, okay. I'm back. I'm back. The days of our lives, anyway. All right, play by play. Okay, so anyway, you were saying a bad or angry producer can damage you, make your producers feel valued, and I'm not saying because they're going to what is it, sabotage your show. They might just like I'm saying indirectly sabotage. Why must I work for you? Why must I listen to you? I'm saying if you're going to treat me like rubbish, then I will give you rubbish too. You understand? Now, that's a bit spiteful, right, and not professional. But I can tell you one thing. Let's say you're not going to take that route, which is good. Don't be spiteful, right? And quote unquote immature in your job. Even if you do get treated poorly, find a better way forward, right? But I can tell you this, you will by no means be motivated to do your even close to half your best for a presenter or a station manager that treats you or treats you terribly, right? Today's producers are tomorrow's program directors. True that. Like for real. I would have never believed that unless I'd seen it so many times, right? That you see this invisible producer, quote unquote, that's in bunny quotes, invisible producer suddenly be the next is suddenly hired as a program manager for a station. And then the next thing, they're a station manager. I'm saying not always, but they're definitely part of upper management. It's crazy, right? That is there's total truth in that. Not presenters, producers, right? When you become a host, treat your producer nicely, right? Not because you have to, because you should, right? So you get the glory and they are underpaid. You get the credit, they get yelled at. That's so true. Yeah, I mean, if you're a presenter, I'm a producer, like the manager shouts at you, which is fine and all. It comes with the job, right? Anyway, to share your freebies, the books, the free tickets, and free meals. Yep, you also get them too. It's not just VIPing, so VIPing a presenter's life. You get part of that too. Share it, if you wanna. Give them honest so feedback. So this is actually the presenter gets most of this. They should share it with you. I'm so sorry. Like that's actually more how it works. If you're really great, I'm saying so. A producer for a big breakfast show will get hand-me-downs, right? I'm saying product suppliers. Well, so what? And if it's free, it's the best price, right? Anyway, avoid the manufactured hour. Never be boring, right? Okay, so pick up on the scent of boredom, right? And move along from that. So the closer the show sounds to real life with genuine people having real conversation, the better it's going to work, right? So try to avoid easy stories from headlines and press that has been seen and read already 100 times over by the time it's 8:30 in the morning, right? And I'm saying to 100 times over by maybe like five or six or seven people that are just in your close knit group, social group, because we've seen it in so many different contexts. We've heard people respond to it. They've done the reels, they've done the lives, they've done the articles. It's been done, right? Okay. And we explained it before in the previous lesson about yes, there's a dull day, right? Because these things do happen, right? So if you wouldn't be talking about this off air, why would you put it on your show? And that also, just be careful with that, right? You need to be someone that is very confident in creating new subject matter. So don't just only think, listen, is everyone talking about it or is somebody talking about it? We can also think about should they be talking about it? And so we should put it on air. Listeners prefer programs that sound as though the conversation could just as easily been had in a restaurant or like a bit of a hangout or whatever it may be, right? So know your source. It is fine to use the internet. Duh. Again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to patronize, right? Of course, it's fine to use the internet. Prep services, please be careful of. So that means what's a prep service? It's basically a site that will send you free prep every single day, right? So it's very tempting and most and sometimes used because we even did it when we were students, right? Because this is great. DanoDay.com gives you this free prep. Guess what happened immediately? Every single one of us had the same content on their shows. It lasted, I'm saying it took about 3 days for us to all realize how basically dumb we were, by using a prep service. Yes, there's more advanced, I mean, there's more advanced prep services. There are more advanced prep services in today's day. And also you can use chat GPTs or other AIs, and that's cool. And I totally am all for that, right? But know how to approach it. The moment you feel lazy, you know you're doing it wrong, right? So producers should also bring their own original stories and ideas from what they see in real life, right, to the program. Right. So producers should read widely, listen to the competition, and generate ideas based on life. And it's easy to Google guess that you must do, right? But it's better to once again use AI programming to really give you like a 3 or 4 dimensional point of view and angles about a guest, right? Something that you have to go and search days and days and days for to get something cool. Right. You can go and use the AI, I'm saying the AI content generator, quote unquote, but then don't stop there, please. Right. You have to take that and make it uniquely your own. That's the biggest and most important part in this particular slide here, or whatever it is, right? Do not undermine your credibility by presenting facts that you have not checked. Woof, Like you will never be forgotten. Never. You'll be that presenter that said that confidently, right? And they will never forget. They will never believe you either. Man. Anyway, it's not worth it, right? Go check it up and then be very transparent on air. Say, listen, so from what I had found, and I'd looked here and there and listened to this and asked this, this is these are the quote unquote findings. You'd find a more colloquial way of saying that as well, right? But anyway, sidebar, right? You would also you can't know everything, and that's fine. But be honest about it as well, and don't claim it to be the only truth with a big T there, right? Okay, a capital T. The following simple techniques should bring several topics to the host that no one else will be able to cover in the same way. One, your life. Now, your life as a producer is is not going to fit. I'm saying to you because there's a presenter that has to go and execute that particular experience, right? You're going to have to once again check in with life according to you and the host and see where there's a common ground so you can produce best for them. Overheard, observed, something that you've witnessed or heard about, or directly like maybe line of sight, like you had that conversation yourself, right? Or that experience is obviously great inspiration, always great inspiration. We love anecdotes, we love real life, right? Right. News to talk about off air. So one item from the news that you would actually talk about with another person in real life. In each case, find a universal angle. So, as I was saying, they find this common ground. When you're using your life, a producer, again, helped to get his host the universal angle of a topic that came from the host's private life hosts, right? The host had promised his wife he would paint the garage because he preferred to watch football on Sundays. They got into a huge fight. So he and his producer decided that the paint, the garage, and the argument were his private life, but there was a universal angle to the show. Now you can almost guess who this is going to go. Like there's like husband wife dynamics. There's kind of like silent expectations. So you should be doing this when, well, I don't even have to tell you. We can speak about how much a woman can say without saying anything at all. We can also go this angle. The producer found a psychologist who had just published a study on male female relationships. It seemed most men didn't care whether a woman gained weight or was a lousy cook. What they hated was someone that nagged. Why? Because their mother nagged. Then and the topic went on for 2 hours with lots of humor there. And yeah, I hear it. I'm just going to take the word for it, right? So it took a talented producer to help find a universal angle to make it more relatable to the listener at the end of the day. Right. So it's important to have a producer who understands the logic behind what we've known to become, or become, what? No, we've come to know as formatics. There's my English, right? Okay, so lots of producers must, so they know the basics, but are never told why they matter so much. Why is timing so important? Why is duration so important? Why is quality? Why is it live? Why is pre-recorded? Why is whatever it is, sponsorship, features, this, all these things are important, right? And 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 I think maybe most of the time are assumed that the producer or the presenter would know at least why they are important. But if you have a look at any station, so no station is exempt, right? And you look at stuff that let's say presenters are doing and producers, presenter, producer, whatever it is, and you think, because again, we're saying like you can be both, right? So, anyway, sidebar, right? So, and you see and you think, what a silly idea. Like, what a silly idea. That obviously is redone. It's done to death. It's so boring. It's it's a silly way of asking it. It's maybe a silly topic altogether. Whatever it is, right? We see that every single day. And we see it at every single station, right? There's going to be a presenter, not a particular presenter only, but presenters that just are not directed well enough because they have this belief that they know better. Because you know what? Here's where accountability needs to actually be passed or dealt, whatever it is, or you know a presenter must sit there and a producer must sit there and actually ask someone else first before they feel, oh, this is an amazing idea. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go this and make this a thing. Just go ask someone. But if you have a really unhealthy ego, like a massive ego, like, whatever I do, it's going to be great. then you're going to sit there and you're going to make a basically a public um, donkey of yourself. So, another word for donkey. Right. Anyway, so it is like boo-hoo. I'm saying if you don't know, then find out. Right. And again, I'm not trying to be mean. It's just the way that it actually is. Staff needs to understand and so this is just a repeat of, I'm saying, well, it's a regurgitation of what I've said, right? Okay. The staff needs to understand the importance of helping the listeners retain your station's details, retain time spent listening, retain them as a loyal listener. That's all these things, right? The Ten Commandments, right? We're going to close up with this from Geller. One, know the host, presenter, and her audience very well, right? Do not covet, in other words, yearn to possess your host's position on air. Um, be a producer, man. Be a producer. Never put a boring caller on or a guest on air. Rather play the music. It's always going to be better. Have only one director, or program manager giving input. I don't see a situation where there's going to be more than one program manager, but there could be different. So many people would like to maybe like put their 2 cents in. Be careful, right? Because even though those 2 cents might be valuable, who do you have to answer to at the end of the day? So pay close attention to details so that your host or presenter will not have to. And remember your address list or database and keep it up to date. In other words, the people that you do interview, their details, why they were there, etc., etc. Helpful. Six, be organized, able to easily and quickly locate a contact and find things that your host or presenter put down and loses. I think that's a bit childish as well. I sound like a really bitter old lady, but it's fine. I'm sorry. Like a presenter can't be irresponsible, and you need to pick up after them, right? But do always like you are the bulldog at the gates. You need to know better, act quicker, I don't know, prepare stronger, whatever it is, right? Like that you do have to do. So in that way, they are kind of like not. I mean, they're maybe a little, in terms of like a professional maturity level. Yeah, sure, let them do their own thing, right? But not to a point where they're basically like this. Never throw away a phone number, email address, or a good takeout menu. Right. Again, I'm not even going to. So that's a Geller thing. I'm not going to. I'm not. Like I understand the value of the takeout menu. I'm saying uh, suggestion. Sorry, I'm not laughing at it. I am laughing at it. It means, but it means that there's content everywhere, right? There's people everywhere. There's someone that I could phone up and ask for maybe like could they quickly make a whatever it is, a Jay-Z milkshake for us and bring it through. That's I could see it in that regard. That's cool. Know the internet world and real world, read about and live in both of them. Have a life outside the radio station. It's going to serve you as you obviously prep your show 24 hours a day, every day, providing you with creative topics and angles nobody else is doing. Study the station and learn to do everything, right? From audio to video to social media to PR to production, whatever it may be, right? You need to know everything, right? Right. Foster good relations between your hosts and your show and the rest of the radio station, especially the news and sales department. No, everybody. Everybody is important, right? In that station, right? Okay. But yes, the news, because they can give you the sales, they can give you money, right? Give you money. Right. Okay. In summary, you can go through that. In the next lesson, we'll continue to look at a producer and facing the blank page. Right. Okay. I'm going to stop that share over there and see you in the next lesson.